Good Wednesday afternoon, LinkedIn and YouTube. I think we're live on both. I am super excited to be joined by my guest, Maya Ackley, the Senior Director of Commercial at SentinelOne. I'm going to bring her out shortly, but before I do, I have the greatest job. I get to meet inspiring leaders and give them a platform to tell their story in the hopes to draw top talent to their team. And I met Maya and immediately was drawn to her style and approach to leadership. And I feel that the community and the people here that are either watching this live or watching recording afterwards are going to be drawn to this. She's building a fantastic sales team at SentinelOne, high performing already. She could talk a little bit about the accolades and the success rate of her team. She's coming off, by the way, a President's Club trip last week herself, where there were members of her team that were a part of it. So we're talking about a leader that's willing to invest in the growth of her people and really, really is passionate about that. So without further ado, you're not here to hear me talk. You are here to hear Maya talk about herself, her story, and this role, and everything SentinelOne. So, Mike, shut up, bring out the guests, do the thing. Here is Maya Ackley. Maya, welcome.
Hi, Mike. That was the most glorious introduction ever. I'm going to have you, every Zoom call I do, I'm just going to have you with me and have you introduce me to everyone. So thank you.
I could do that. I could do that.
You're going to be my hype man. My hype man. So I'm going to take you everywhere I go. So thank you for having me. I'm very, very excited to do this. I think this is such a cool thing that you and that Spark does, that it's there's nothing else like it. So I'm very excited.
For sure. And just to give people some context, this is a unique opportunity where if you're watching this live, you can interact. You can ask us questions about the role, about Maya. And if we can't get to them live, I promise you I'll get to them in the comment section afterwards. But it's also an opportunity for you to meet your potential future boss before you decide if you want to go forward in the application process. No other company does this. So kudos to Maya and SentinelOne for putting themselves out there and doing this. This is the value. Your boss is the most critical part of a job, and you want to meet her before you decide if you want to move forward. And I'm telling you right now, you're going to want to move forward after you meet Maya for sure. So before we jump into it, Maya, I think, I noticed on your LinkedIn that you spent some time with Blockbuster. Is that correct? Or did Wikipedia serve me wrong here?
Really bringing it back. I feel like I'm on a talk show where they pull up the picture of you when you're like 8 years old and it's horribly embarrassing. You have bad bangs. I spent 15 years at Blockbuster. I was a district training manager there. So I started my career in nothing even close to tech sales. I started in kind of a form of retail management and training. And I did that for a long time before I migrated into tech sales.
Awesome. And I did have a reason why I wanted to ask about Blockbuster is, and I'm sure you probably get asked.
Do you want me to get rid of, Mike? You want me to call someone?
I do, if you wouldn't mind. But I wanted to know, and it doesn't have to be one movie, but if you could think about your favorite movie of all time, say it's Friday, you had a heck of a week, you want to just kick back, relax, and some nostalgia of your favorite movie, what's the first one that comes to mind?
Oh man, Mike, you're killing me. Like, think about it. 15 years of 5 free rentals a week. I've seen a lot of movies. My youthful favorite is 16 Candles. That ages me a little bit. So if you're younger and you're listening to this, you probably have never heard of it, but it was like my 13-year-old favorite movie. I like kind of weird movies. JFK. I'll watch almost anything, but I tend to skew more towards kind of bizarre independent films. I know. I'm more fun than that sounds, though, guys. Like, I promise you, I'm more fun than my movie taste sounds like I am. So.
No, I believe it, and I can't wait to get a top 3 indie movie list that I need to check out. Maybe we'll start a blog. Maybe we'll do that on the side.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, let's jump into it. As we talk about this role, I think for some context, just to give the audience a bit of a, you know, I guess, entry point into this conversation. What does SentinelOne do? And forgive me, even though I've done a lot of tech recruiting, I'm not technical. So what is it that SentinelOne does?
I just had someone ask me this the other day, and my answer was, we solve problems, which is at the core of what we do. That's really what we're out there doing. We sit in what most people would refer to as the cybersecurity space. So, and which is a hard thing for some people to understand if you've never lived and breathed, you don't live and breathe in the cybersecurity space. But, we're an XDR platform. So we have what most people refer to as endpoint security and EDR capabilities. I would say, when anyone asks me if they're someone that they're looking at a job here, my first thing I tell them is go look at our website, go read a couple blogs, Google us. That's what I had to do when I got into tech sales. And it's really important to get your bearings on what kind of industry it is for any sales job. But at the core of what I like to say is that we solve problems for companies, and we don't sell to individuals. We are a B2B company, so we sell to businesses. And so we're helping them solve the challenges that are out there right now with cybersecurity, which is, kind of a scary place. I think a lot of people, it's part of our global dialogue right now when it comes to cybersecurity, reading about hackers and ransomware, and it's happening at, big companies, small companies. My brother is a COO for a small company. They've had to deal with ransomware. It's not a it only happens to huge companies kind of thing anymore. It happens across the board to everybody.
Awesome. That's great. And that gives us kind of a context for SentinelOne. You kind of secure businesses to make sure that they don't end up in the papers, right? Is essentially,
yes.
Yeah, that's it.
Are you looking for a job? Do you need a job?
Maybe.
You could apply. I'd hire you.
Now, your sales team is split into kind of two groups, kind of commercial and, mid-market, kind of, if you will. I think to walk people through, a salesperson closing a deal on your team from start to finish, what that would look like. And I guess we can do it for the mid-sized team, and then you can kind of talk about how that differs on the commercial team afterwards. But I think telling that story will set the table for what sales a day in life would look like here.
Yeah, and there are a lot of parts of it that are very similar from regardless of the segment that my team covers, which is really what that delineation is the size of customers that they interact with. But they own a deal from the moment they have a lead or they prospect into a customer to the minute that it closes. I know there are a lot of other companies sometimes that'll have roles that are dubbed inside sales roles, or they're account executives, but they don't sit in the territory that they cover. And they think that they aren't going to have, they're not going to wholly own that sales cycle, but my team does. So from the minute a lead comes in, which a lot of times we're a very channel centric company. We work with partners, and 100% channel centric company. So we work with partners. So leads come in through partners. They come in through customers attending events. They come in through word of mouth. They come in through prospecting. So whatever format a lead comes to a rep, then they start the process of really trying to understand what our prospect or our customers are trying to solve for. What's at the core of why they would be interested in looking at SentinelOne? What's at the core of what keeps them up at night? I think, what prevents them from sleeping? What are they worried about at work, and what projects do they have that SentinelOne can help solve for? And so once they understand that, then it's kind of the typical sales cycle in terms of understanding their procurement process, their buying process, the legal requirements that they have, and cost, of course, and making sure that it's cost efficient, and at the same time that they really understand the value of what SentinelOne can bring to them. and all the way to the last minute that the deal books. So there's not a part of that sales cycle that my reps don't touch, regardless of whether they're in the small to mid-sized business group or they're in the commercial group.
So the difference between the two is just the size of the end customer, but the solution is completely the same. They're selling.
Yep. Solution's totally the same. Everyone has a quota that they own completely. That's their quota. And so and they're tasked with the same thing. I think the biggest difference between the two is really just the needs of the customers are sometimes different based on size. Their security teams that you work with are different based on the size of the company. And the lead sources and the way that the leads come to us is different. And the sales cycle is longer a lot of times for the larger customers. So there are subtle differences within there, but their job ultimately is going to be the same as in terms of owning that sales cycle.
Awesome. So they get the lead, or movie reference, the Glengarry leads, right? That come in.
Good one, Mike. I should have said that was my favorite movie.
So they get the Glengarry leads that come in, and then your reps own that process from lead till they come a customer, and kind of the solution goes in. Everything in between, negotiation, the presentation, all of that. Now, how long does that sales cycle typically take? And does it differ between your SMB team and the commercial team?
It does differ between the two teams. It's a much faster sales cycle. Typically, if we're talking averages, it's a faster sales cycle in the small to mid-size business for a small to mid-size business rep. But ultimately, the sales cycle is really going to be indicative of what's going on with that customer. I mean, if they're a customer that just got hit, but they've just been breached, they have an immediate need. Their needs are going to be what dictates how long that sales cycle is going to take. There's other, companies that start the process very early, and they do it. They start with a ton of vendors, and then they slowly narrow it down to, like 2 final choices, and then test those choices and then decide and it's a very competitive environment in cybersecurity. So customers have a lot to think about when they're choosing a solution, which is why it's so important that reps do their due diligence and really look to understand what's at the core of what they need in order to solve for their company.
Awesome. So the deal size, or the sales cycle's longer on the commercial side. We're talking about more RFP type process usually, when they kind of have to go through that, which is a bit more, kind of formalized, whereas on the small, mid-sized, it's not as formal, more transactional. So that one would be a little bit quicker, but I'm sure the values would be different. Like the average deal size from your SMB mid-size to commercial would be different. Do you know roughly average deal size that would be on either, and then how that would relate to what a quota would look like for a salesperson on either side?
I mean, I think I mean, I don't know, the best way to answer that is that it's all over the board, kind of, because there are some customers have 200 employees, but they have a ton of data that resides in the cloud. So they may be a customer that looks smaller and from the outside, but really they're not a small customer. So it really kind of depends, and it's you can close a 6-figure deal on my team, and a lot of my reps have. So it's not out of the question that you're living and breathing in that space, even with customers that fall into our bucket versus, say, a field reps or enterprise or much larger customer bucket.
And just to touch on that, because I was going to go there as well, kind of props to your team. And do you want to share about how many members or percentage of your team that hit quota, made President's Club, just to tell people, like, flex a little bit, Maya, in terms of how solid your team actually is?
Yeah, the team, it's a bunch of all-stars, We had 80%-ish of my team hit their quota last year, and we had, I think, 13 of my reps make President's Club last year out of 20. And a lot of the ones that didn't make it were hired mid-year or later. So they weren't in the role long enough to actually, you have to have been in the role 9 months or longer to actually make President's Club. So just an incredible year, but the year before was the same thing. Team was smaller. We've had growth every year, but we still had a huge portion of the team make President's Club. A huge portion of the team hit their quota. It's consistently been just part of what I think the team expects of themselves. It's not even necessarily what I expect of them. It's that it's built into who they are to be successful like that.
Well said. And for those of you listening, I want to point. That's a not so small flex. You want to work on Maya's team. It's a high performing team. So now that we understand the sales process, we understand kind of how it works in, what skills do you think set this individual up for success to be a President's Club, winner, kind of hit their quota, rise through the ranks? Like, what skills do you think that they could bring to your team that would help them have success in this role?
Yeah, I love this question because I think the automatic assumption is to start, jotting down people's accolades from previous roles and how many times they've made club and things like that. But for me, what I'm looking for first are the intangibles, are the things that are harder to teach someone. And so for me, the most successful people on my team and what I look for when I'm hiring are that internal drive, that thing that you have that pushes you to be successful, that has nothing to do with me, that has nothing to do with my boss. Yes, those things matter, but it needs to be just ingrained in the way that you approach any job, that you seek out to be good at the things that you do, and you push yourself to find success and that takes some real relentlessness, right? Some real ability to just push through the peaks and valleys. The other thing that I think makes people successful on the team is the ability to take coaching. I for myself included, but to take coaching without getting defensive, to take coaching and really take it in and see, you know what, I'm going to put this into my vault. I'm going to use it the next time, and I'm going to see how that changes what I do. And that you need a real lack of ego in order to do that. I want people to be wildly confident. I want everyone to be wildly confident in what they bring to the table. But at the same time, removing that ego from the equation, then you can really get to the core of how do I address some of the gaps? Because we all have them. Nobody's walking into any sales job going, perfect. And there are things that make working for SentinelOne different than working for other companies. It's been a different experience for me. And by different, I mean the best experience. And so how you can be the best at SentinelOne might not be the same as how you can be the best at a different company.
And this is one of the reasons why I was drawn to work with you, Maya, is most individuals that are looking to hire, when I ask the question about what skills, they go directly to experience. You have to have sold here, you have to have sold this much, you have to sold to this customer, you have to, like a laundry list of experiences, I'll say, or technical competencies. But the thing that I respect the most about you is you look at it differently. You understand that you can teach and invest and grow people to get them if they have those intangible skills that you value, that you've seen other individuals have and have success in that. And I think that's really, really important, especially when we talk about the industry of cybersecurity, in terms of the intimidation nature of it in itself, and why it's so important that, we're doing this and giving, and you having this platform is that's like not necessarily the most important thing here.
Right.
And I think that that's really valuable.
Yeah. And I think that it's what has built the team that I have. And mind you, that team has changed. I started with 2 reps 3 years ago. I have 35 and 3 managers now. So the team has changed and people have gotten promoted. I've had people have been wildly successful and moved on to new roles. And that's the goal, right? The goal is to, if you're starting your career at SentinelOne, we want to find a home for you here where you not only feel like you're excelling for yourself, but you are bringing something to the company that is unique and you bring. So, and there's not this set path of I come in, I am I start in this role and then this role and then this role. The opportunities are endless because SentinelOne is growing so much. I just had a girl on my team move into a director role in enablement. She's previously sold, she's done training before, she's a great fit for the role. I just had someone move into a field rep role. I had someone move on to our MSSP team. And, so the sky's the limit if you are good at this. And that's up to you, right? It's up to you if you're good at this. And you're willing to put the work in and say, like, you know what? This is where I see myself. I want a career at SentinelOne. I don't want this just to be a stop on the way to something else. I see the potential for me to continue to move. And I think, to come back to what you said, I think I have to look outside of that typical only cybersecurity experience. Previously, experience is the only thing that matters, box in order to find some kind of hidden gems. I think that's what I was. I didn't have any tech sales experience before everyone has to start in tech sales at some point, and you don't know how good you can be at something until someone gives you a chance and they say, I have faith. I believe in you and I see big things from you. So I've hired people from that have sold cars previously. I've hired people that I promoted people up from our BDR org. A lot of really successful people from our BDR org, that's their first role. One of our BDRs that I hired, he wanted to change his career. He started out in the pharmaceutical industry, went to school for it, and then was like, you know what? I want to try something new. Started out as a BDR. Now he's on my team. There's not a set path. You build the path for yourself. I'm here to help pave the road. That's my job. I want to help pave the road for you. So I make sure that you understand what's expected of you. We have clear expectations, that I support you, that I help you learn. My managers help you learn. And then it's you walk down that road, right? And if you're going to run down that road to get to the next step, then I'm going to try and keep up with you, right? So
I like that. I like that a lot. And you kind of touched on it a little bit, and there are some questions that we're going to get to as well. But that path and that career growth within SentinelOne, and I understand it could go a bunch of different directions from your team. But what would growth look like within the sales organization, or what could it look like for somebody that wants to invest in SentinelOne in their career and have that growth? What are some examples of progressions that you've seen?
Yeah, I think so. Our business development org is a great source for kind of starting your career in sales if you've never done any kind of sales before. And usually it's the first place I look when I do a big amount of hiring. I look to that team to see who's ready, because we want to have this natural progression, right? We want people to feel like there is momentum and the ability for forward motion without them having to leave SentinelOne to get there. So that's a natural source for me. But once you're on my team, because I have two roles, kind of two levels of selling in terms of the coverage, you can migrate from that small to mid-sized business rep role into a commercial role. That's promotion. You can migrate from the commercial role. We're going to be a first source that the field looks at when they're looking to hire people to move out to the field and cover the enterprise space size customers. That's a promotion. I've had people that have interest in going into marketing and wanting to be a field marketing manager, people that want to go be a channel business manager and want to go into the channel. Really, this role, if it's the first time you've lived in tech sales, if you have an aptitude for it, you have the drive, and you're focused on the right things, you could find a path in so many different avenues. And that's what my team, that's I we promoted 4 of my 5 top reps from last year to this year. They all went into promotions, which is gloriously rewarding for me as a leader to see that growth and that success. And then also, sad for me but that just means I've made room for the next batch of all-stars that are going to come in and be my top 5 reps. I've just made room for new people to come show me how successful they're going to be.
I love that view that you have on that. I mean, it just shows your passion for, investing in your people and seeing them grow. And I think that's super important. There was one question that I want to get to before we move on is, aside from the intangibles you look for, what are some commonalities, specifically strategies rather than traits, that your top performers have?
There's the first thing that comes to mind is that that's almost like dual personalities, the ability to work autonomously and at the same time, the ability to be collaborative within a team. And my top performers are the most collaborative and the most autonomous in their ability to just heads down do their work. That's a huge commonality. And it's something my team as a whole exhibits. Is they're a very collaborative group. And mind you, we've done most of this through COVID, so we're not in an office together. But they all want each other to be wildly successful, but they are crazy competitive. So they want to win, but they want everyone to do well in the process. And that is such a rare thing. So the competitive nature, but it's that internal competitive nature. It's that you're pushing yourself because you want to win, not you want other people to fail so that you look better. And that is a critical part of the most successful people on the team. Another trait is that they're organized. Most of my most successful reps are organized because it is a very fast-paced job. And you will lose track of everything if you don't find a way to be organized within the scope of how you do things. Not saying there's a set way that you have to be organized. They're all very different. Some of them are more organized than I am. But having some sense of knowing how to organize your time and your thoughts. And we have a mission statement that we built as a team that our responsiveness is part of that. It's in our mission statement, is that how responsive we are, because it's so important to customers and to partners and internally. It's the least you can do is respond to someone and let them know that it's important that you get back to them and you understand that and you're going to,
Your team wrote their own mission statement?
We did write our own mission statement. Let me see if I have it handy and I could read it to you.
That'd be great. That would give us a really solid glimpse of the culture.
Yeah, hold on here. And
see, as you could tell, this is live. We did not prepare for this, or else
I know
Maya would just have this ready to go. Yeah.
We're winging it here. Okay, hold on. I'm going to find it really quick. I'll need to put my glasses on to read it though, which will age me. And I don't know if I like that, Mike.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Do you, were there any other questions we can answer while I look for it?
Yeah. While you look, what is the remote work setup for your team now? Is everybody 100% remote? Is it hybrid? Are there offices across? Like what is your current stance and I know nobody knows the future, but what does it look like?
It is right now it's hybrid because, we've lived in a remote existence for 2+ years and everyone has built their lives around working remote for that entire time. So it would be naive of me as a leader to think like, you know what, 100%, we're going back to the office. Everybody's working 5 days a week. We're clocking in. That's just it's not reasonable. And I think it would make me really bad at my job if I didn't recognize how challenging it is to, kind of change your whole life in order to accommodate going back into an office. So we kind of live in a hybrid world right now. We're building a new office, or not building, we're opening a new office. So in the process, that'll in Fort Lauderdale. We have an office in Eugene, Oregon. We have, an office in Tel Aviv and an office in Mountain View. So I want people to feel like their life is supported within the context of, needing to make an appearance in the office periodically, so that they can interact with the people that they work with. And that's kind of where we sit today.
Awesome. Did we locate the mission statement?
We have not yet, Mike.
Okay,
But we
well,
will.
let's keep rolling.
Yeah.
I think this is something important that we chatted about. And I know we're going a little bit over. Sorry, but like I could talk with Maya all day, so I'm going to keep going. We got a couple more things that we're going to get to. Is what does diversity mean to you, and why is it important for your team?
So it kind of means everything to me. I have tech sales in general. I mean, I was a field rep previously in tech sales, and before I was in inside sales leadership, and I was an individual contributor, and then I went into the field, and I was the only girl on every field team that I was on. It was all men. So, I know what that piece of diversity feels like, the male to female ratio. I know what that piece feels like. And so it's important to me that it's part of why I look outside of just cybersecurity or just tech sales experience, because if historically tech sales is predominantly not as diverse, if I only look for people that have experience in tech sales, my candidates are going to be not as diverse also. And I want to widen that scope. And at the core of why it's so important to me is that our customers are super diverse. Our partners are super diverse. We want people to feel represented on the team. I want people to feel represented. I want people to feel like they're a part of a team that everyone's represented, right? We have representation across the board. And so my team is extraordinarily diverse. The best part about it, though, is that you have all these people with unique experiences that they bring that to the table, their knowledge base, their experience, they're not just in work, but life makes for a better team, because you're learning from so many different types of people with so many various like cool backgrounds and stories that they come to the table with. And that's what makes us all better at our job, is learning from the people around us, internally, externally.
I love that. And I think based on the conversations we've had, it's important. And the diversity of thought and experience and life experience, bringing that in, is why your team is so successful. And you think about things differently. You're not, the typical, team. It's made up of people that have different experiences that they bring. So I think it's super important and at the foundation of why, you've had success as a leader and why your team has had success. And SentinelOne in general. So I want to close this out by you telling the story as to why did you choose SentinelOne? Like, what was your journey? How did they land you, Maya? Like, tell me about this. And why wasn't I the one that recruited you in there? I mean,
I know.
You don't have to answer the last part. Don't answer the last part. But like, why SentinelOne? And tell me the story about how that all came together.
So I worked as a field rep for literally one of my favorite bosses I've ever had. And I had lived in Ohio at the time. I moved back to the Pacific Northwest. My family's all out here. And I had left that company and I was with a different company. And I got a phone call one day from that boss. And he said, "How far is where you live from Eugene, Oregon?" And I was like, "Why are you asking me this? What's this question? What do you want?" And even though I worked as a field rep for him and didn't work in any kind of leadership capacity, he said, "I think we have a job that I think you'd be good at." And I respect him so much that I wasn't looking for a job at all. I wasn't looking to move. That I was like, yes, I'm open to talking about it. And then I flew in for interviews and I got to interview with our he was our COO at the time, Nick Warner. And I interviewed with Daniel Bernard, who's our CMO, and Nick's our president now, and HR, and our head of operations. And there were these consistencies throughout all of those discussions. There was no ego, this real lack of ego, and there was complete transparency, that they weren't trying to sell me on something. They were telling me, this is what it really is. This is the scenario we're in. You have 2 reps, like this. But if you are willing, like, we think you could build something really great. And that for me was what sold me, was that transparency, that no one was like, drink the Kool-Aid, even though the Kool-Aid has poison in it. Just drink it and don't ask questions. They wanted me to know the reality of the role that I would be going into, and that on the other side of that, there was the potential to be wildly successful. And I actually took a pay cut to take the job, because I saw the potential in what it could be and not what it was in that moment. And that was a game changer for me. And it's the best career decision I ever made, hands down.
I mean, if I could just cut that as the sales pitch with a mic drop, is it? I mean, you just summed up, why we do this, right? The reason why you joined SentinelOne was about the people, right? About your boss had before. And then as you met people, they really shaped this opportunity and gave you a glimpse of the culture based on transparency, based on, an openness, a lack of ego, and a competitiveness of wanting to succeed. And I believe that's what this role is, and that's what you stand for. So individuals that want to have a life-changing experience of growth, this is the role. This is why we do this. And this is why, I wanted to introduce you all to Maya and give Maya the opportunity to speak, because I truly believe that this is so unique and such a great opportunity for someone that's looking for a chance.
Yeah.
Because Maya will give it to you, and she grows and grooms rock stars.
I can't deny that, Mike. I can't deny it. And I will say, I'm just going to add this one little caveat, because we've talked about really important stuff, but I just had a newer rep I had a call with the day before yesterday, who's been on board maybe 2 months. And he said, I had no idea your team was so fun, that everybody was so funny. And so I want to reiterate that too, is that we laugh all the time on the team, because you have to. Sales is stressful, man. Having a quota that is, it's stressful. Otherwise, everyone would try and sell, right? So we spend a lot of our time laughing also. And there is great joy in the camaraderie and the humor that's part of the team. And so I just had to add that, because we're also a really good time. We're really fun.
Well, I would hope so. You have this history of 5 free movie rentals a week for 15 years that you have
Right.
I'm sure you sprinkled in some comedies there. So you have
a
Rolodex of some solid movie references.
Yeah.
Maya, I had a great time. I'm sorry we went a little bit over, but I think the conversation was super valuable, and it steers there. I could talk to you all day about this role and getting to know you. I think it was great. And this is such a great opportunity for people to get to meet you before they make the best decision of their lives.
Mike, I can't thank you enough. This was absolutely wonderful. And I'll talk about me and my team all day long. So anytime you want to do it again, I'm happy to. Thank you, sir. This was really, really wonderful. I appreciate the opportunity.
Awesome. For all the candidates that are watching this live or the recording afterwards, get in touch with myself and my business partner, Brian, and we're going to be putting together some candidates for Maya to look at. And we're super excited to meet you all. Maya, have a great Wednesday, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Mike.